How's it going, ladies and gentlemen? My name is RuffledRowlit, and today we got ourselves some Pokemon leaks, rumors, everything in between. So sit back, relax, and let's get started. First things first is going to be this post shared twice by none else than RuffledRowlit. Now, if you do not know RuffledRowlit, just a quick TLDR, he's basically a guy who posts Pokemon leaks. Sometimes he can be a little bit confusing with the stuff he says because he makes riddles. That's his whole thing. He's been correct in the past, and there's been a few times where he's been sort of vague enough that people would say he wasn't correct. But for the most part, he does actually have information. It's not just some random Joe Schmo, if you want to put it like that. So the reason I'm bringing it up is because he actually said something very, very interesting, which is that all the projects that were leaked a few years ago now, from a massive leak that happened known as the Terra leak, all of those games are apparently still in development, which if you do not know what that means, that is pretty freaking huge, because the Terra leak did not just contain leaks about Legends ZA, Generation 10, so Winds and Waves, but also the mention of several other games, including two big games that you guys should know about. One of those is Legends Galar. Yes, a Galar-based Pokemon Legends game that's supposed to come after Generation 10. So we'd be getting Gen 10, and then we get Gen 10 DLC, and then a Legends Galar game, apparently according to this. But not just that. Also, there was a codenamed Seed game, a game literally codenamed Seed, which was supposed to be an MMO. Now, for those of you guys who are a bit younger, who maybe are not old heads like myself and some of the people watching, basically an MMO is a multiplayer, massively multiplayer online game. Usually they are MMORPGs, which means they're role-playing games. Things like, if you've never played World of Warcraft, that would be a good example of it. Final Fantasy, Poké MMO, which is a fan-run game. But basically, yes, so there are several of these projects that are in the works, and this MMO game was one of them too, which is supposed to combine 4 different regions, okay? 4 different regions into one thing. On top of that, there's a bunch of other stuff in this leak, including stuff like a, let me see what else we have in here. So a multi-region online remake game, Project Seed, so an MMO game, which is literally multiple regions. Leaks about Generation 11, so after Winds and Waves, what's coming as well. Legends Galar, so that's supposed to be Legends 3, the next game. What else do we have in here? Pokopia getting DLC is another thing as well. And I think there was also like Project, oh god, Rodeo, I think, but I think that one was canceled. But apparently, here's what he says, though, which is all projects mentioned in that leak keep being developed, including the MMO game, which is codenamed Seed, according to one of his friends by April 2026. So by this point of time, by April of 2026, those things are still in development, meaning that we could still be getting this MMO game. It's still in development. It's still being worked on, which means there's a high chance we will still get it, okay? Which is huge. Like, that is actually huge news. That's not a small detail. That's not a small piece of information. That's pretty freaking giant and very, very important to keep in mind. So people are asking him questions. I disagree with Jerry here. I think there should be an MMO. I think Pokemon has always been perfect for an MMO, which is why Poké MMO and so many other MMO fan games exist, specifically because people want that like experience, and I think it would work really well. Pokemon is perfectly adjusted for it and perfectly fit for an MMO style game. As long as they don't make it something like Destiny in terms of the MMO side of it, right? Like if they make it like an actual open world type thing where you can explore different regions and actually see other people around and stuff like that, and not just the, oh, invite your friends and whatever. It's like, make it actually an MMO then, right? Commit to the idea of it. Commit to an auction house, to an economy in the game, and all these things. Like commit to that, to multiplayer battles, etc., trading, all those things. But either way, somebody did ask him also here, which is, this is really important. So he you know, a bunch of people asked questions, and he did reply to a lot of it. So somebody says, when is the Pokopia DLC coming? And he said it's supposed to be next year. So somebody asked, so is there nothing to expect for the rest of this year then? And I guess he didn't reply to that one. I don't see a reply besides this one. Then also, somebody asked, any idea what Karasu is? And he says, never heard of that. What's it? And now Karasu, if you haven't heard, is another code name for another project, which we do not know what that one is meant to be. I think it was like a DLC or something, at least something in that direction. I could be wrong. But that comes to us from Ball Guy, who also has sources. So I don't know. The thing with Ku is he hasn't really said anything recently. So it's a little like less attention that's been given to him due to that, but either way, he says never heard of that. What is it? Supposedly next game after Guy. He says only Ringo and Seed are the games after Winds and Waves so far. And then people ask, what is Ringo? Now Ringo is the code name for Legends Galar, right? A game based around the Galar region, which is what's, you know, Sword and Shield is based, you know, is is, the region from Sword and Shield. The number says, some people are saying that the IDs for Ringo have been changed and updated into Karasu, but I don't personally know, and that's just speculation. He says, according to my friend, Ringo, or Legends 3, was the same as the info in the leak and being in production for a while. So, there you go. And then, the other thing is, Happy New Year to you all. The latest project, which was not exposed from the Terra leak on Nintendo Switch 2, is here. Enjoy. What about this project? You still haven't explained what this is. I'm pretty sure we did explain what this was, which was, this was Ikaku, not Karasu. Karasu is bird related. This is a dolphin / whale, which is related to previous games. But either way, so that was one of the things. Of course, other people had thoughts on it, like Hidden Power saying, in a series of posts, Riddler has stated that the rumored game Ringo or Legends 3, a third Legends game set in Galar, is still in development. A rumored MMO Seed game is still in development, and a codenamed Karasu is still unknown to him currently, which, again, we'll see what comes from that. Other thing, of course, different people giving different thoughts. Necro Felipe also giving his thoughts, saying apparently none of the Pokemon projects leaked by the Terra Leak have been shelved. So again, seems like a lot of people have been jumping onto this and talking about it. So yeah, again, we'll see what this comes, what this comes out to in the end, or what comes from this by the end of things. But it is pretty huge, to say the least. Like, I'm not even gonna lie, it's pretty massive news, to be honest with you. But and if you don't know, again, what Project Seed is, here's some more details about it from Light, who says, I kindly reminded that Project Seed is currently in development for Nintendo Switch 2. And again, he's just saying this, again, based off of what Ku said. But if you didn't know what it was about, it's a multi-region MMO game. It is set across Kanto, Johto, Hoenn, and Sinnoh. I don't know where Kitakami comes from. I don't remember that being in the list, but either way. All regions are fully interconnected in one world. So yes, they are one thing. Currently in pre-production, Game Freak, and planned release will be 2029, probably 2030 due to the delay of Winds and Waves. So again, we'll see if this comes to fruition, how this was going to turn out, what it's going to look like, and when will we actually... Because the thing is, the really dumb thing right now, this is the one thing I like, listen, you can say whatever you want, and you can agree, you can disagree, you can be whatever, you can disagree with me on this, you can agree with me on this. Frankly, I don't care. But I do personally kind of... This from a fan perspective. So from a YouTuber perspective, it's fine. But from a fan perspective, I kind of don't like that they're now announcing games 1 year ahead. Like, no, actually almost 2 years before they even get released. I'd prefer it if they just waited, didn't even announce the game, just focused on Pokopia, Fire Red, Leaf Green. I mean, people would have been pissed. Trust me, they would have been. I would have been pissed. But realistically, this is almost worse. Because now we know that almost every game we get announced from now on is always going to be delayed by like a year. At least that's the feeling of the way it looks right now. Because ZA, they did that, and Winds and Waves are doing that now as well. So I'm more concerned. Like, I hope that they're not going to do that going forward, where every time the game is like announced, we have to wait an extra year before it comes out. That's really annoying. So I'm wondering with this as well, if they announce Seed in 2029, then yeah, I probably won't see it until 2030. It's like, man, I'm gonna be so old by then, dude. Jeez, man. It's like damn. But yeah, so that's another thing. Just wanted to share that real quick. Of course, there's a bunch of theories and stuff we're going to take a look at as well. Another big thing, though, is apparently, and this is from multiple sources, but Nintendo, as we can see here from Maki and J. Roses from PokeOS, best Pokemon website on the internet, Nintendo have announced price increases for the Nintendo Switch 2 and Nintendo Switch system, citing changes in the market conditions and the broader global business outlook. So yeah, the new Switch 2 prices are going to be going up by like $50 if you're in the US. So it's going to be, or I guess in Japan it's like... what is like 10,000 yen, and in the United States it's about $50. In Canada it is it's actually more, because what is that, from 630 to so you're about the same, I guess. And then Europe is going to be going up to $499. So I guess Europe, I mean, we're getting the overall smallest bump, but also it is kind of interesting because the sales of this thing over here, at least to my knowledge, because I've been in stores actually lately, and I'm noticing there's actually a lot of them, which is weird, because I remember when these things were dropping in the beginning, and it was like a massive thing about like, oh, the Switch 2, and it's sold out everywhere and everything. But now it's kind of just chill, at least to my knowledge. I don't know, maybe in your place where you guys live, maybe that's not the case, but I'm looking at it right now. It's actually right now, if you go to my local Media Markt, which is like it's the equivalent of like a Best Buy in the US or whatever. It's like the electronic store you go to, kind of a default electronic store. You can see they're actually selling it for $4.35 right now. It's essentially discounted. And I've seen it actually in a few places even cheaper than that. So they're trying to sort of offload them because the thing is, and it's just the reality of it. I mean, yes, there's going to be people who already bought it, who already, who want to buy it, who still will buy it and whatever. But it's interesting to see that, sure, we keep seeing these news about increases, but even the base price that Nintendo wants to ask is not what they're, I mean, actually, did it just go up by $10 by me switching here? No. Was it 430? No, it was 435. I was like, wait, did it just go up $10? No, but 435. So it's already technically, I mean, we're not talking by a massive difference here, but it is cheaper than the asking price, or at least the price that's being talked about right here, right? Like the base price for Europe, which is $469 for 470. So this is already like $65 cheaper than the new price that's supposed to be there. And this is without a game, of course. If you want Mario Kart World, then that price is way higher. As you can see, it's like $600 almost, but 578, so not 600 exactly. But yes, it goes up by significant amounts. But if you just want the base game, it's actually, I think, cheaper just to get the base game like this and then get the game separately. Like literally just get the console like this and you're fine. And this is a new one, by the way. What do you call it? This one is literally a new one. So it's not like they literally have these available, in the stores. So my main point is, I don't know how this applies to different stores and how this actually is going to do anything, like how this is going to affect anything, because right now in my local stores, you can just get it for cheaper. But the price is still not really appealing to the average person, because realistically right now is not really the time when people want to be spending a ludicrous amount of money on, a console when times are tough. Money is more important than ever, and people don't necessarily want to be spending it on a console that, let's be honest here, doesn't really have much to offer at this moment. Just gonna be honest, like if you already have a Switch 1, there's very little new stuff that you really need. I mean, maybe when a few more games come out, then sure you could justify it, but right now, realistically, it's not really a lot, unless you really like Donkey Kong Bonanza and want to play that, or really want to play the latest Mario Kart, or really want to play Legends. No, actually, no, you can play Legends ZA on the Switch. Don't even need a Switch 2. So yeah, it's a bit of an interesting situation. But again, your thoughts and opinions, we appreciate it. I've seen all kinds of things. To me, it's just interesting because they keep saying these increases are coming, but I keep seeing the price going down, which is funny because there's one thing that's being said online on Twitter and shit, and there's a different story actually happening in these stores and stuff that I'm seeing, because nobody's really, like, I'm seeing these things on shelves. They're not disappearing. They did it in the beginning. In the beginning, they did. But right now, they're not. Also, some actually big news. So this is actually pretty huge for the Switch 2, which is that as of March 31st of 2026, Pokopia has sold 2.41 million units, excluding Japan. And then if you combine all that total, it has sold over 4 million units globally. And this is not counting up on March and beginning of May now. It's not counting that period. This is just for the time it's been out, essentially up until the 31st of March. So that's actually pretty huge, because it puts it in the top 5 of best-selling Pokemon spin-off games. And if you know the spin-off games, you know that spin-off Pokemon games don't really sell a lot to begin with the highest-selling games ever were Mystery Dungeon Red and Blue Rescue Team, which, if you guys do not know, that's the Mystery Dungeon series, which is probably the most popular Pokemon spin-off series that exists, right? It outpaces games like Snap and Stadium by a long shot if you combine all the Mystery Dungeon games, right? But even with Mystery Dungeon games, they're generally not like amazing bestsellers. So seeing Pokopia already break into that like top 5 with 4 million sales is pretty huge, considering also, by the way, that unlike Mystery Dungeon or whatever else you have in here, I mean, I guess you can give Stadium the same kind of treatment because, well, the Stadium, actually, no, they came out, no, not the same treatment. But if you compare it to, let's say, like Pinball, right? Or, I don't know, Mystery Dungeon, like any of the other Mystery Dungeon games, right? Which usually came out on consoles that had a lot of units out in the world. There aren't as many like Switch 2s in the people's hands right now as there are, like, let's say Game Boys back in the day or Nintendo DS back in the day, which there was a lot more of that in circulation. A lot more people had it in their hands, so were they able to go and buy the games. But also, the difference is back then, promotion for these games was much, much smaller, okay? The Pokemon brand is bigger now than it was probably back then. I mean, sure, there was global crazes and stuff back then, but to be honest, now it's so much easier for them to like spread Pokemon. Like Pokemon is at like, Pokemon is massive, even more massive now, I'd say, than it was back then. So it's kind of interesting to see that even still then, 4 million sales is really good for a spin-off game that people just literally were writing off before it even came out. Like most people, including myself, I'm not even going to pretend as if like I thought this game was going to be amazing or any of that shit. It ended up being amazing. I love the game, but I did not expect it to be amazing when I first saw it. I thought it was going to be dog doo-doo. Turned out to be one of the best things we've ever gotten from Pokemon in such a long time. But 4 million sales is solid for a console that doesn't have as many people that have access to it, right? It's still really, really solid, right? Like actually genuinely solid numbers. It's not bad. It's pretty solid. And I think the game deserves even more success than that. Like putting it in the top 5 already of spin-off games is really good. Of course, that doesn't even scratch the surface of like not even the surface, okay? Like not even the surface of the level of like something like even ZA, which I think ZA is confirmed now to have sold 12.68 million copies, which is a significant amount. But that's like so much more. It's like triple the amount, okay? It's like triple the amount of what you have from Pokopia, which is crazy. So yeah, that's pretty much that. Also, Nintendo apparently have hired 461 employees so far in fiscal 2026. They're sitting now at 8.666. Oh, that's an ominous number. Employees total, which actually, hey, you know, that's a positive. They're hiring more people. Listen, I prefer that over them just dumping talented people and giving like, you know, like firing a bunch of people. Like that's because that's the thing we're seeing in the gaming just space as of recently, which is the fact that so many developers are losing their jobs, and it's just like, budgets are skyrocketing, people's jobs are being like disappearing, crunch is at an all-time high, etc., etc. It's just not a fun time to be a game developer because your job security is always at like a massive risk, especially lately. You have too much work, and also expectations are always nowadays way higher. Like you have these insane expectations of what you need to deliver. So I can understand the pressure is like definitely on right now. But yeah, at least there's some positives. Also, an interesting point, which is that apparently the Nintendo company, or Nintendo, and also I think Game Freak and the others, have actually applied to register trademarks for Pokemon Winds and Waves for these starters. So Gekwa, Pombon, and Ralts in Brazil. And they've done this as well through the, I guess, registration office in Madrid for some reason, which I don't know how that works with Brazil, but whatever, doesn't really matter. The main point is, though, that yes, they are doing trademark filings, which is logical that it's happening around now, which usually is a good indication, because if they're doing the trademark filings at the moment, there is a slim chance, that we could get some leaks popping out. So I got a bunch of dust in my room. There's a slim chance that we could get ourselves some actual leaks coming through these trademarks. So definitely worth paying attention to, because something could drop from this very, very easily. Also, now we're going to talk about some other stuff. So, I don't know if this is in relation to what the Riddler Coup posted, but this is a post from our boy Soul Silver, who has some thoughts in regards to some Pokemon leaks and stuff like that, saying anything is possible and plans change, but going off of what we know now, many believe that the planned Legends 3, codenamed Ringo, which is the Legends Galar game, right, was ended and taken over by a new project codenamed Karasu. Which, of course, is the other thing we're talking about, right? Like, and again, Karasu, to me, I always connect it to Johto, because if I remember correctly, the picture that was used when the Karasu leak dropped, or the riddle for Karasu, was a picture of Murkrow. And also, Karasu is just like, I think it's just in Japanese, it's like, I don't know if the exact word or if a version of the word refers to like crows or ravens. I think crows. But it doesn't really matter. For me, it's connected more to Johto, but whatever, that doesn't really matter. But that doesn't mean Karasu isn't Legends 3 and still isn't set in Galar. When we look at the planned projects document, Ringo was actually a prototype of Legends 3. If it had an endpoint and then its start point for Legends 3 begins, the planning doc also is at least as old as 2023. So to me, it seems they just didn't have a code name for Legends 3 yet and recently gave it one. So the L3 is now Karasu, in my opinion. This also would suggest that the planned basis of the game wouldn't necessarily change. Sure, they could have have continued with the name Ringo for actual Legend 3 development, so most likely some features from Ringo prototype have changed, but I believe it's probably still set in Galar, and the game's core purpose and theme probably hasn't changed. There's also just too many clear hints to a Legends Galar game in ZA, to the point where I think Game Freak themselves would feel disappointed if they didn't pay off those hints. And then you can see here, I remember when the Dark Day fell over Galar, and this is like the letter that was left behind by AZ. If you played ZA, there's a letter that he leaves behind to you, and in that letter, he literally mentions when a dark day fell over Galar, because he was apparently there to witness it, which is kind of crazy. And again, the basically general idea of what Soul is trying to say here is that the rumored Project Karasu, which was posted by Ball Guy, which is another leaker, that project is just this project, which was previously codenamed Ringo, or at least named Ringo for a bit, which is basically just the next Legends game, the third one, aka a Legends game set in the past version of the Galar region, which we have even more information about. So there is that. And I think that pretty much summarizes that information. Also, here's another one of his posts about this, which, I mean, I guess we can go to the original version of what he posted here. So this is just a continuation of it, but says, finally some slightly conflicting and good news. First of all, the big news here is that apparently the Seed MMO is still in development before Gen 10's development, meaning as of right now, they still plan to release it before Generation 11. As for Ringo versus Karasu, if you read my post below, you'll see what we've been looking at Ringo the wrong way the entire time. Ringo was a prototype game for Legends 3 that had a planned endpoint, and then development of Legends 3 would begin. Ball Guy has claimed the codename Karasu is the next mainline project. We know from the timeline that the next project after Winds and Waves DLC is Legends 3. Also, that to say, I don't think that Ringo versus Karasu codename battle matters. If Karasu is real, it's still just a Ringo with a different name because it's the next project. If Karasu isn't real, then L3 is still just Ringo. So based on what we're hearing, they are the same game or project no matter what. Again, what this means is Legends 3 is most likely still set in Galar, but features from the prototype may have changed. I knew that Murkrow represented our other Crow Pokemon, Corviknight. Ah, so that's what he's... Okay, I see where they're going with it. Lastly, all this still being in development alongside Winds and Waves starts a whole new discussion that I'd like to follow up in a post about. And I think that's the post right here. So I guess at least this is one of the posts. It says, just some potential proof about Ringo and Karasu being the same thing. One, past Pokemon games have had previous codenames before their main codenames. So Sword and Shield called Rex before turning into Orion. And and then Scarlet and Violet called Pegasus before they codenamed it into Titan, etc. In these and other examples from the timeline, we see how prototypes move to actual development phases. We also see the opposite, where Seed has a prototype period that ends and starts again, but it keeps its codename and Seed instead of changing like Ringo to an unnamed L3. And I just smacked the shit out of my finger, so there's that. But yeah, again, I don't know if the name necessarily means much in this case or matters that much, but it's still interesting to bring up. But also, here's another discussion that Soul has to bring up, which is, does Seed being in development before Gen 11 mean that Gen 11 won't come out for a very long time after Gen 10? Which is possible. Keep in mind, Generation 10 and Generation 9 now is going to be 5 years in distance between them. That is the longest period we've ever had. This is, you have to think about it, this is literally the longest period in history for Pokemon. And this is a 30-year-old franchise now. The franchise has been around for 30 years. This is the first time ever that we've had a period that is this long, okay? 5 years between one and the next generation is huge, because if you look at any other Pokemon generation, right? Every single Pokemon, like Pokemon mainline game release dates, right? If we look at any previous games, we just look at the actual release dates by, you know, the times by release date and all that kind of stuff. I don't know why it's not working. There we go. So the other issue here is, keep in mind, there is a Japanese release date and then there is a North American or European release date, which can be a little bit confusing. But if we just look at red, green, blue, and all that stuff, 1996, right, is when they came out, and then yellow. And then if you look at the next entry, which was gold and silver, so the next, you know, generation, it was exactly 3 years later in 1999, right, is when it released. Follow that up with 1999, and then the next entries came in Ruby and Sapphire in 2002, right? But again, that's the Japanese release. We're not looking at the US because we're going off of the original first releases. So that's, again, 3 years later, right? Always 3-year cycles. That's at least how it used to go, right? Ruby and Sapphire until we got, let's see, where is our boy Diamond and Pearl? 2006. So that was longer. That was 4 years. So that was the first time they'd taken a longer extra year to make the next game, right? 2006, September of that year is when Diamond and Pearl came out. So that was a bit of a longer time. The only difference there was that in between we did have, in 2004, we had actually 2 games released. So we had Fire Red, Leaf Green, and Emerald all in the same year. And in between we have a shit ton of like just random spin-off stuff coming out, right? With like Blue Rescue Team in 2005 and stuff like that. But that was the first time we had 4 years. But then following from that, I think the cycle of 3 years just continues from here. So Diamond and Pearl, and then until Black and White. Let's see. Where's Pokemon Black and White version? So Black and White, Black and White, Black and White. There it is. So Black and White. Actually, no, it was 4 years there too. So 2010, Black and White comes out. 4 years. Actually, wait, let me see. Where is Diamond and Pearl? So 2006, 2000. Yep, there we go. 4 years. And then this is where it starts just being, I think, 3 years between generations. For like up until like now. Right? So Black and White, 2010. Then X and Y, 2013. So that's 3 years. From 2013 till 2016, we get, where is 2016? There it is. In 2016, we get, where is Pokemon Sun and Moon? There it is. 2016, Sun and Moon. Again, 3 years. Then the next game, 2019, the Pokemon Sword and Shield. Where is Sword and Shield? There it is. 2019. Next game, 2022, if I'm not mistaken. 2022, where is Scarlet and Violet. Scarlet and Violet, 2022. And even in 2022, we also got Legends Arceus, by the way. So 2 big games in 1 year. And just before that, just in November, before, the January period here of 2022, in 2021, November, we also got Brilliant Diamond Shining Pearl. So but again, 3 years between generations. And then from Scarlet and Violet to now will be the longest period ever. Because as you saw in the beginning, we had 3 year, 3 year, like 3 years, 3 years. And then there was a 4-year gap between like Gen 4 and Gen 3 and Gen 4 and Gen 5, right? There was a 4-year gap. But then the gap disappeared. Then it just became 3 years every time. 3 year, 3 year, 3 year, 3 year, 3 year. But this is the first time where it's going to be 5 years of development, which is, again, unprecedented. Never been the case before. Because in the past, at least there was like at most 4 years. Or there would be a gap year or something. Or there would be a year where we got no game, but at least the year after on the 3rd year would get a new game. So it's kind of significant, okay? It's pretty freaking significant that we're not getting that. But either way, let's see what he says here. So he says, or is Game Freak going to ignore the Winds and Waves delay to 2027 and still try to stick to their timeline? Could they release Winds and Waves DLC just months after its release and then release Legends 3 also in 2028? It's possible. I kind of doubt it, but yeah. Now the plan, because Gen 11 was stated to be 2030, seems to be that it's the following, right? So Gaia, 2026. Zeus, or Gaia DLC, 2027. L3, 2028. Seed, 2021, and Gen 11, 2030. So this was what the original plan would have been, right? So Gaia, I think this was just Legends ZA, right? So that would have been 2026. Wait, sorry, no, Gaia is Winds and Waves. Sorry, my bad. So Gaia would have been 2026, right? So this year is when it would have come out. Zeus or Gaia DLC, so the DLC for Generation 10 for Winds and Waves, 2027. Then Legends would have been in 2028, the Seed MMO game in 2029, and Gen 11 in 2030. This would have been such an insane and, to be honest, unrealistic lineup. I always figured they would cut the Seed game because it was also a multi-region MMO, much better suited for after Gen 11, especially right after a Legends 3 game. But this news that Seed is still in development over Gen 11 changes my mind a bit. The thing is, MMOs are all usually expansive living games, so of course they could have pushed everything back with Winds and Waves and Seed coming before Gen 11. So Winds and Waves 2027, Zeus, so the DLC for Winds and Waves 2028, L3 in 2029, Seed in 2030, and Gen 11 in 2032. Still have one more topic to discuss, but which of these options would you prefer? I don't know, man. It is I don't know. I would have preferred the first option, obviously. But at this point, honestly, there's not much we can do about it. We just have to like kind of, roll with what's here. You know what I mean? Kind of just have to roll with what's there, essentially. Because there's like, realistically, ain't nothing changing about this. Ain't nothing happening. They're not gonna, like, they've set a goal for when these things are coming out. And let's be real, most of the stuff we expected is probably going to be delayed. So it's most likely going to be option number 2 here. Like, it's going to be this. Like, we're going to have to wait a long time from when we get Gen 10 until the next generation. It's going to be a long, long, long time, like, realistically. So it is what it is, man. That's just how the cookie crumbles. You know what I mean? Like, that's just how the cookie crumbles. But yeah, well, again, we'll see if anything comes from it. Also, is some random information I wasn't aware of, but apparently the Pokemon movie 24 is going to be dropping next year according to Amashinu. Not sure where Amashinu is getting this information from, but apparently it features a Perion, a fairy normal mythical Pokemon from Gen 10 with fairy flying form. Initially scheduled for 2023, got delayed to 2024, then delayed indefinitely, is now heading to streaming platforms instead of theaters, so possibly a web series instead of a movie, codenamed Project Bauer, source Terra Leak Billy. Now this is actually a real leak, by the way. There was an actual poster and stuff, and like I remember this being part of a Terra leak, but this is so old now. This was such a long time ago that I don't really know if this is still happening. I don't know where Amashino is getting this info from. I hope it's real, but I don't really know if they're just, I don't know, man. Like I know there was a movie, and I know the poster, I think the poster is real, by the way. The actual poster is real, because I remember this poster, and this was before like the AI slop stuff was like super common. And there was a movie being worked on, but I don't know. Nothing came out of that since then. So, yeah, I don't know. I wouldn't really take much or put much stake in it. So there's that. Also, Dusty posted randomly Legends Galar starters and then pictures of a snake and some grass and fire and a lizard and I don't know. I'm very confused. I don't know what he meant by this, but either way, it is what it is. So yeah, ladies and gentlemen, that's going to be it for today. Thank you all for watching. I do have some more stuff I'm going to be talking about, some Pokopia DLC stuff, but I'll do that in a video most likely tomorrow. So thank you all for watching today, and I'll see you all in the next video. Peace out and bye-bye.